Hi, I shaved. Um, Also, that spot on my neck got a little better. I was doing hard cardio on the exercise bike. I don't know if that helped at all. I think it's a blood flow thing up here. Anyhow, I mean, I was bedridden for 12 months almost. So I was just like, I was talking. I made a post on Facebook and people were getting like butthurt because like I was talking shit on neurosurgeons, and I was like, I don't think like people are aware, especially neurosurgeons that I talk to about. They're not like, aware of this stuff. So this is a message to neurosurgeons who are never going to see this video because they don't do any research apparently. But here we are. Uh, and I want to say first, uh, when I worked in cybersecurity, I wasn't always going home after work and researching cybersecurity because I just worked in cybersecurity for like 10 hours. So I understand if you don't want to go research your work thing after work, that sucks. Um, but still, you think at work you do a little research, but or talk to people. So neurosurgeons, like, they're screwing up really bad because like if I went to like a middle school class and I gave them a skeleton and I said, all right, this skeleton, I'm going to give you like the hanging ones you get in class. And I said, this skeleton, like, you're going to lay it on a, or sit it up in a chair, right? And you're going to have to support it, right? But move the head around and see which way it's. Because this wouldn't work unless you had like ligaments, a ligament structure in the skeleton holding it together. I don't know if they make those, but hypothetically anyway, because it's never going to happen. But if you had a skeleton that was like being supported by ligaments in a structure and you could like sit it up without like head support, it would like stay more or less. Um, it wouldn't be like a one-to-one equivalent of like a human, right? But um, it just like they would, you said, figure out which way the head moves. There's some instability there. See if you can locate it. Like move the head around and see if you can figure out some odd ways that the vertebrae look like they're moving. Having no knowledge of the way vertebrae are supposed to move, and in fact, in this model, they wouldn't move like a human's anyway. Uh, so, because it doesn't have like flesh and all that stuff holding things together. Like it doesn't have muscle and tendons either. So it just has the basic structure. And what a middle schooler would do is they would grab the head and they'd start moving it around and be like, what, if I move it to the right and to the left, like this and like this, like is it different if I move it forward and back? Is it different if I rotate it all around? And they would move it all around and be like, what's the deal here? Like, is this thing like, and then maybe they move it like a certain way, and like the C1 vertebrae slides off to the side, and they're like, okay, when we move it this way, this vertebrae like moves way over here, and that's not good. But what a neurosurgeon does is they would just grab the skull and they'd move it forward and they'd move it back, and they'd be like, all right, we have now checked all directions that it could possibly move, and we have deemed that it is fine. And the middle schoolers, and probably elementary schoolers could do this better, but middle schoolers would say, hey, we found a problem, and the neurosurgeon would be like, oh, we didn't find a problem. And you could talk to a neurosurgeon too, and they'll give you a flexion, and the flexion extension is just forward and back, like chin to chest, and then you know all the way back as far as you can go. And then that's what a neurosurgeon will do, and then that's it. And that's typical. Doesn't mean that there are no tests whatsoever. Like there's digital motion X-ray that checks all sorts of ways. Obviously, you could lay with your neck like turned in an MRI. There's no rule that says you can't do that. But like a neurosurgeon will just be like, they'll have you lay prone or they'll have you do a flexion extension, and that's it. And that's like, I don't know, at least 99% of neurosurgeons in the country will have you do that, and then they'll be like, oh, you're fine. And it's like, well, it's another experiment you could do, like a thought experiment, I guess, or you could physically do it. But so imagine you just took like any high school, say, physics class or a biology class, anatomy. I don't know if they have anatomy in high schools. and you maybe at the college level you could just, but I'm sure even in high school you could just take any high school science class, even if it's totally like if it's like physics or biology and it's not directly anatomy, right? And you just said we want to develop a way to image someone's neck so that we can find out if there's any movement in that the person does with their neck in which where the ligaments are not doing the job, right? So, and X-ray could be an option, MRI could be an option, right? And so you could break people off into teams and say like, you guys try to do an MRIs that would check the most things. You guys try to do an X-ray, and then people that would do an X-ray be like, well, let's do an X-ray in the neutral position, and then let's have them move a little bit forward, and then a little bit forward, and then a little bit forward. Maybe do like three forward, three back, and flexion extension. A couple going this way, like all the way as far as you can. Couple going that way as far as you can. Couple like this way as far as you can go. This way as far as you can go, and like at the end range, and then in between you'd have ones, and then maybe some diagonals, and then that'd be a good place to start, and that would be better than that's what they would come up with, very likely, and that would be better than anything that's in use today, except for the digital motion X-ray, which doctors don't use. But like doctors could, like neurosurgeons, even if they don't have a digital motion X-ray at their place, they could literally just have you like I don't need a digital motion X-ray. If I tilt my head to the left like that and you take an X-ray, you'd see like my C1 goes whoosh like way over top of C2, and you don't need a DMX to see that. You can see like wow that's bad. Um, and there's a lot of people like that. So it's like when you have like middle scores and high scores that could sight unseen, no prior knowledge, just except knowing what an X-ray is. Um, and that an MRI can see like tissue, then like yeah, I mean they'd come up with better solutions than the neurosurgeons. So like neurosurgeons are really really screwing up, and then neurosurgeons sometimes will use the excuse like, well like and I have to reiterate neurosurgeons don't know this stuff. But even the ones, the very few that are aware that their methods aren't good, might say something like, "Oh, like insurance, well, they wouldn't cover it. This is just that's the way insurance has us check on things," and it's like that's not an excuse, because have you tried to talk to the insurance agencies and say like, because you can, I know it's crazy. You can call them. You can call them and be like, I got this patient, and when I do like an MRI on him or an X-ray or whatever, it's the only problem when they like if you wanted to do an MRI, like special MRI where you turn your head, like rotating your head. He could do an X-ray where you're rotating your head and be like, all right, so we're seeing a problem when you're tilting or seeing a problem when you're rotating. We want to do a special kind of MRI. That's not covered by insurance. Okay, talk to the insurance. Be like, look, we have proof that this person has an issue. Like when they're moving their head a certain way, and we want to test that, we have to test that with imaging. Insurance agencies probably say, yeah. They say, okay, we'll figure out a procedure code for it and we'll do it. And they're like, so it's like doctors don't want to call someone. There's also Dr. Rosa Clinic in I forget it's like Maryland, but like rosaclinic.com, and he does MRIs that actually show problems with soft tissue, and he knows how to do it. Like he does thinner slices, and he spends more time so you get more detail. So it's like so if the slices are thinner and you're spent more time to get more detail, then I think the way it works is that so that's like multitudes more detail. So if you do thinner slices, like instead of 3 millimeters, you do it 1 millimeter slices, right? So that's three times as much detail. And then if you're spending three times as much time on that, that's nine times as much detail, right? So you just and that's in theory. So then you test it, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's actually true. It works. Um, and he does this and diagnoses problems that your regular neurosurgeon will come in and be like, hey, here is You'll do this MRI, you're fine. They'll look you in the eye, a dying person, and be like, you're fine. Have a nice day, you're not unstable. And they're happy. They're like, oh, we figured it, we ruled something out. And it's like, no, you just shit the bed, man. You just sucked at your job worse than a middle schooler. And there's information out there. If you just do a Google search in 30 seconds, you find it. So, like, you were fucking up. Really fucking bad. And killing people. People are dying. I mean, there's people that they get much worse because they didn't get treatment, and then they die on the operating table, or they die because of complications due to craniocervical instability. And I've known them, and and then there's people who commit suicide, and that could happen to me. That could happen to a lot of people I know. Suicide's definitely a lot better than what I'm going through now, and I have to talk myself out of it every day. And nobody cares. Like, nobody's like, everyone knows I feel that way. Nobody gives a shit. Like people be like, oh, I care, but it's like, not really. Most people would be like, I'm glad he's not suffering anymore. At least they wouldn't be happy I died. They know it's a shitty situation with the doctors, but they know at least I wouldn't be suffering, because that's how bad it is. Like, you got to be suffering bad when people are just like, all right, well, at least at least he's not suffering that horribly anymore. And that's this is the reality of this situation that is real every second of every day. So when the neurosurgeons are at home sleeping at night and like, oh yeah, I'm doing okay, yeah, I'm not, and neither are thousands of other people that you're screwing up on. And it's like, you're really really screwing up, and it's like there's no excuse for it. Like, you could just do a Google search and be like, diagnosing craniocervical instability. There's like how to guide, how to do it. Links to Dr. Rosa, links to digital motion x-ray, links to literature research by Centeno Schultz, and thousands of other documents that people and conversations people have had on Facebook groups who where people are talking with the best doctors in the world and discussing that. It's not just, people say dumb crap on Facebook, but they also talk to the best doctors in the world and say, what are those doctors saying? They have YouTube videos about, like, cutting edge research that neurosurgeons are doing to address craniocervical instability and what causes it. Like, I walk into a neurosurgeon's office and, like, I have instability, all my soft tissue's failing. Do they say, hey, maybe you should go check for Lyme? No, no idea. But if you do a Google search, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a thing that could happen. It's like, oh, okay, well, shit. And there's no, so you can't just be like, well, it's a Google search, but then, like, I gotta clear it with insurance, and I can't, my hands are tied. It's like, can you send email? Can you make a phone call? Yes. Did you try to do that? No. Okay, so you didn't even try. Right? Like, every step in the chain, the insurance people, the patients, the doctors, the hospitals, the hospital owners, the shareholders that are part of the hospital system, they're all people, and most of them are good, kind people that care. So if you talk to those people, you can work shit out. But you don't do that. And it's like, and yeah, you're like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, especially if, like, a lot of the, like, younger doctors who are generally sharper, smarter, they'll figure shit out, and smarter than I would be, like, if I started at my age, like, they don't want to rock the boat. They got bills to pay, they got huge loans, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. They're just like, look, man, I'm just trying to, this is all bullshit, and I'm just trying to tell. But it's like, somebody has to say, you can be polite. You don't have to be like, hey, fuck you, this is the wrong way to do it. You can be like, hey, look, here's some information. Like, here's what, this neurosurgeon said. Here's an MRI someone got at Rosa Clinic, and look at that, and look at ours, and look, how fucked up is that? Gee, we should at least talk to Dr. Rosa. And Dr. Rosa literally talks to neurosurgeons regularly. He will tell you this, trying to educate them. Like, they want to talk with him. It's like, Like, Jesus, like, neurosurgeons, you're really screwing up. Please stop screwing up and killing us. Or alternatively, like leaving us in lives that are worse than death. Because this is worse than dying, right? This is much worse. There's worse things than death. And you're like, well, he's still alive. It's like, nah, like that's what you're doing is worse. And if you don't believe me, then have a conversation with me off camera and try not to cry because you won't be able to. So anyway, please just try a little bit, just a little bit. Thank you.